In the relentless downpour, Emma reluctantly agreed to cover her Aunt Lily's cleaning shift at the prestigious Grand Avalon Hotel. With her medical scholarship interview just days away and textbooks waiting at home, this was the last thing she needed. But her aunt's desperate plea after spraining her ankle left Emma with little choice. Lee's job was their only steady income since Emma's parents died. Just clean a few rooms, just tonight, Emma promised herself as she donned her aunt's oversized uniform and clipped on the staff ID. The Grand Avalon stood like a gleaming monument to luxury against the rain-soaked city. Emma entered through the staff entrance, greeted by an exhausted supervisor who barely looked up. Executive floor, 10th and 16th. Some VIPs came back unexpectedly. Be thorough. As Emma pushed the heavy cleaning cart into the service elevator, her heart pounded. She had memorized her aunt's routine from countless dinner conversations, but doing it herself was entirely different. The 10th floor hallway felt surreal with its plush navy carpeting trimmed with gold, crystal sconces casting a soft glow like a quiet palace. She meticulously cleaned room 1501, empty trash, replaced towels, wiped surfaces, vacuum, check minibar, aligned toiletries with exact spacing, moving efficiently, driven by nerves. Just as she finished, the walkie-talkie crackled with an emergency request. The presidential suite on the 16th floor needed immediate cleaning. The 16th floor was nothing like the others, with only for luxury apartments and hallways wide enough to park a car. Original artwork adorned the walls as soft instrumental music played through hidden speakers. The presidential suite itself was palatial, high ceilings, ornate chandeliers, floor-to-ceiling windows framing the stormy skyline, mahogany walls with built-in bookshelves, a baby grand piano, and a marble fireplace still faintly warm. Emma worked reverently for an hour, remaking the bed with military precision, scrubbing the bathroom until it gleamed, aligning every perfume bottle and glass like surgical tools. She was kneeling beside the fireplace, wiping soot from marble, when the door clicked behind her. "Well, this is unexpected," said a deep, steady voice. Emma turned slowly to find a tall, sharp-suited man with silver at his temples standing in the doorway, phone in hand. He looked like he'd stepped from a business magazine cover. "I wasn't informed of any surprise arrangements tonight," he said with a tightening smile. "But I suppose Grand Avalon still knows how to keep its top clients entertained." Emma's blood ran cold. "What do you mean?" she stammered. The man tilted his head, amused. "You can drop the act. It's fine. I don't need the extra attention, but thank you anyway." "I'm just cleaning," Emma whispered, horrified. He blinked, confused, then skeptical. "You're a cleaner?" Emma couldn't answer as tears filled her eyes. She grabbed her cloth, stood up, and backed away. "I'm sorry," she said, voice cracking. "I'll leave." The man's voice followed her, tinged with sardonic amusement. "I thought I told them I wasn't interested in this kind of service anymore." He motioned vaguely toward her. "The hotel likes to be discreet with their VIP guests. A little after-hours surprise. It's not the first time, but I told them to stop." Emma's face drained of color as she realized what he was implying. "What? You're not the first girl they've sent, but this time they went for something more subtle, less flashy, more innocent looking. I must admit they have a good eye for performance." "Performance?" she echoed, stepping back as if struck. "You're very convincing." The whole lost in the room look, the humble clothes, the wide-eyed innocence. "It's a bit overdone but charming." "I'm not," she tried to say, her throat tightening. Her voice rose in desperation. "I'm not a performer. I'm not something you get with a sweet upgrade." The man's expression faltered momentarily. "I'm here cleaning," she snapped, wounded. "My aunt couldn't make it, and I'm helping her. That's all. I'm not part of some disgusting fantasy package." The amusement vanished from his face, replaced by doubt. "Wait, you're serious?" Emma's eyes glistened. "How dare you? Just because I'm in this room wearing a cheap uniform doesn't mean I'm for sale." He stepped forward, alarmed. "I didn't mean," but Emma was already moving toward the door, wiping tears with the back of her hand. Her elbow struck the cleaning cart, knocking her aunt's ID badge to the carpet. "Wait, I made a mistake," he called as Emma yanked the door open and rushed into the hallway. Alexander stood frozen in the presidential suite, staring at the door before turning to the abandoned cart. He picked up the fallen ID badge, Lily Mendez, not Emma. He glanced back at the door, brows furrowing. He was many things ruthless in business, cold with strangers but not intentionally cruel. What he had done replayed in his mind with growing unease. The way she had looked at him wasn't like someone overacting a role, but genuinely hurt. Meanwhile, Emma took the staff stairs 2 steps at a time, hot tears spilling down her cheeks. She had never been so humiliated. All she'd wanted was to help her aunt finish her task quietly and go home. Instead, she'd been mistaken for something vile, treated as less than human. The way he had looked at her like she was just another amenity. In his luxury suit burned deep in her chest. Back in the staff lounge, she stripped off the uniform with shaking fingers and changed into her own clothes. Her aunt's ID was gone, but she couldn't go back for it. She left through the back entrance, the cold night air hitting her like a slap. One night, one simple favor, that was all it was supposed to be. She had no idea how one misunderstanding in a luxury suite would change her entire life. Alexander stood alone long after Emma had vanished. He turned the ID badge over in his hand, the photo unmistakably not the girl who had fled. He felt something twist in his gut. He had seen hundreds of women attempt to use charm or manipulation for access, favors, or money. He'd trained himself to spot deception from miles away. But tonight, something didn't add up. She hadn't flirted or played coy, had looked terrified, hurt, humiliated. He called security and requested access to the hallway and suite camera footage. 10 minutes later, he watched as Emma pushed the cart into the hallway, struggling to maneuver it. Clearly unfamiliar with the layout, she entered the suite without hesitation, working quickly and methodically. Her movements were clean, yet no trace of seduction or anything inappropriate. She was simply doing her job, or rather, someone else's. "Who is she?" Alexander asked quietly. The head of security shifted uncomfortably. "Well, the badge she used belongs to Lily Mendez, longtime cleaning staff. But that wasn't Lily. Give me everything you have on Mendez: address, schedule, family information." Back in his suite, Alexander reviewed the file. Lily Mendez, 57. Employed at Grand Avalon for 7 years, 0 disciplinary marks. Lived in a working-class neighborhood east of the city. 1 dependent listed under emergency contact, Emma Mendez. The name jolted him. Emma, that must have been her. What disturbed him more? Insulting a young woman clearly trying to help her injured aunt, or looking at her with the same cold detachment he reserved for transactional encounters. Her face returned to his mind in perfect clarity, wide brown eyes filled with tears. The way her voice broke, the rawness of her pain. For years, he had lived with precisionals, data, control. Feelings were inconvenient. People were assets or liabilities. But Emma was neither. She was real, and he had reduced her to something less in a single careless assumption. Alexander turned from the window, jaw tight, and reached for his phone. "Claire," he said to his executive assistant, "first thing tomorrow morning, I want you to schedule a private meeting with the hotel manager. I also need background on all cleaning staff assigned to executive floors in the past 72 hours. And find me a phone number or address for Emma Mendez." "Of course, sir. May I ask why?" Alexander exhaled slowly, staring at the ID badge. "Because I made a mistake, and I intend to fix it." 2 days later, Alexander stood before a faded green door in a narrow hallway of a low-income housing complex. The building smelled faintly of mildew and boiled vegetables, a stark contrast to the marble and eucalyptus-scented air of the Grand Avalon. The door creaked open, and a woman in her late 50s peered out, recognizing him from photographs and news articles. "Mr. Hart." "Yes," he nodded politely. "You must be Ms. Mendez." She opened the door wider, leaning on a cane. "Forgive me, my ankle's still healing. Come in, if you don't mind the mess." The apartment was small but clean. A worn couch sat beside a stack of medical books and empty tea mugs. The air smelled of lavender and menthol ointment. "I'm not here to cause trouble," Alexander said gently. Lily offered a tired smile as she settled onto the couch. "I guessed that. You're not exactly the suing type, but I know why you're here. You figured out it wasn't me cleaning that night," Lily continued. "I heard from staff that you were asking questions about Emma." Alexander nodded. "Yes, I realized I made a mistake. A serious one. Lily looked down, twisting the hem of her sweater. She was only trying to help me. I had fallen, twisted my ankle badly. If I missed that shift, I was afraid I'd lose my job. So she offered to go, just for one night. She begged me not to tell anyone, Lily continued, her voice softening. Said if someone found out she wasn't staff, I'd be fired. She thought she could just go in, clean a few rooms, and leave without anyone noticing. But someone did, Alexander murmured. Lily nodded. She hasn't stopped crying since. Alexander glanced at the medical books. She's in her final year, applying for a scholarship, works to part-time jobs and still studies till midnight. I keep telling her she's burning the candle at both ends, but she says it's the only way. She didn't deserve what I said to her. No, Lily agreed, but she understands why you thought what you did. She knows how people like her are seen, especially by people like you. There was no accusation in her voice, just tired truth. Can I speak with her? Lily studied him, then nodded. She's at campus most of the day. Med building, room 113. She volunteers in the free clinic after class. She's hard to miss. Alexander found Emma at the university clinic, seated at a desk sorting medication samples into labeled trays. Despite her tired eyes, she moved with purpose. When she spotted him, she froze, rising slowly to her feet. "What are you doing here?" Her voice wasn't angry, just small and cautious. "I came to apologize." She hesitated, gripping the desk edge. "If you're here to report me, or my aunt." "I'm not," he cut in gently. "I would never." "Emma, I realized how wrong I was. I saw the footage, how careful and respectful you were. You weren't pretending you weren't anything close to what I accused you of." Tears formed in her eyes again. "I've spent years around people who only want something from me," he continued. "I've gotten used to assuming the worst. That night, I let cynicism get the best of me. But you," he swallowed. "You were just trying to help someone you love." Emma turned away, covering her face. When she found her voice again, it cracked. "I didn't mean to end up in your room. I was just trying to do a good job. My aunt means everything to me." "I know," he said softly. "And you did more than a good job. You reminded me that not everything in this world has a price." She looked at him, startled. He smiled genuinely. "I've met thousands of people, Emma, but never someone who showed more strength and humility in a single moment than you did that night." She stood in silence, tears streaming, her guard beginning to lower. For the first time since that awful night, she didn't feel ashamedly seen. Alexander stepped forward carefully and extended his hand. "Would you allow me to make it right?" Emma sat at her desk late one evening, rubbing her weary eyes after a full day of clinical rotations. When her phone buzzed with a message, "Would you be available for lunch tomorrow? There's something I'd like to discuss." No pressure at all. Her fingers hovered over the screen before she replied, "Okay." Noon. They met at her favorite cafe near campus, where the coffee was too strong and the chairs creaked. But the sunlight hit the windows just right. Alexander was already there. No longer the towering CEO from glossy magazines, but a man in a simple navy sweater, looking a little too tall for the space, but somehow fitting in. "I took a chance," he said, offering her a coffee. "The girl behind the counter said you always ordered this." "You remembered," Emma said, surprised. "I try to remember important things," he replied, his sincerity leaving her momentarily speechless. They spoke about school, patients she'd seen, and the chaos of juggling studies and survival. Then Alexander placed a folder on the table. "This is from the Heart Foundation. We have a new scholarship program for medical students who've demonstrated exceptional resilience and character. It includes tuition coverage, a living stipend, and access to research and field opportunities across our global health initiatives." Emma stared at it, stunned. "It's not charity," he said gently. "You earned this. That night in the suite. You didn't just clean a room, you showed more dignity than most people do in a lifetime." She shook her head. "I can't accept this just because you feel guilty." "It's not guilt," he insisted. "It's recognition and respect." Over the following weeks, they continued to meet, first through short check-ins, then longer conversations. Sometimes he asked about her exams, sometimes she asked about his latest board meeting or travels. Emma found herself thinking about him more than she wanted to admit. Alexander felt something shift too. It had started with guilt, Yes, but had grown into something he couldn't ignore. Emma's honesty disarmed him. Her lack of pretense was like fresh air after years in fog. He watched how she spoke to Pia Pleniver, condescending, always listening. She remembered the names of janitors and security guards and stopped to help strangers. Without hesitation, she lived as though kindness was her default. One afternoon, after visiting a new community clinic his foundation was funding, they stood outside under the late spring sun. "You've changed," she said quietly. "How so?" "You're softer, more open." He chuckled. "That's not what my board says." Emma smiled but looked away. "I just mean, I think the world used to feel like a battlefield to you. Now it seems like you're trying to heal it instead of conquer it." After a pause, he said softly, "You made me want to." She looked back at him, startled. "Emma, I have built empires, negotiated billion-dollar deals, been in rooms with kings and presidents, but nothing has shaken me more than the way you looked at me that night when I misunderstood you. And nothing has stayed with me longer than the grace you showed afterward." "We're from different worlds," she whispered. "I don't belong in yours. That's where you're wrong," he said firmly but warmly. "You belong anywhere you choose, and if you'll allow it, I'd like to be part of that world, wherever it is." She searched his face for arrogance or pretense, but found only truth. For the first time, she let herself smile full, not because he was a CEO, but because he was Alexander, and she was no longer afraid. A year passed quietly, yet profoundly. Emma graduated from medical school with honors and secured a position as an intern at a respected city hospital. Though the hours were long and the pay modest, she walked each corridor with purpose, no longer fearing the future. Throughout that year, Alexander remained present, not intrusively, but with quiet consistency. A thoughtful message during exam season, a warm cup of tea left backstage at a lecture, occasional dinners where he listened more than spoke. He never pressed her, never tried to impress her, and perhaps that was what impressed her most. Then came the night of the Foundation's annual charity gala, held at the Grand Avalon itself. Emma stood before the same grand doors where her story had begun, now dressed in an elegant navy gown, her posture strong and confident. Inside, Alexander gave the final speech of the night, his voice softer than expected. "I've built a life measured by contracts and market shares," he said, scanning the room. "For a long time, I believed value came from status, wealth, efficiency. But this year, I met someone who unraveled that belief completely." His gaze drifted toward Emma at the back of the room. She wasn't a partner, not a donor, not a CEO. She was someone I met by accident, though I think now, not really by accident at all. Someone who walked into my world for one night and reminded me what grace, strength, and true dignity looked like. Later, as guests mingled and music swelled, Emma wandered to the balcony for air. The city lights twinkled below like 1,000 fireflies. "Emma," his voice was quiet behind her. She turned to find Alexander, his expression open, but uncertain, rare for a man who always seemed to know what to say. "I meant every word," he said. She nodded, unsure how to respond. He hesitated, then smiled faintly. "You know, I've negotiated mergers between companies worth billions and faced off against the world's most ruthless competitors, but nothing has made me more nervous than this moment." Emma's lips curved slightly. "Why?" "Because," he said, voice low and sincere, "what I feel for you isn't calculated. It's not strategic. It's terrifyingly real." She looked up at him, her eyes soft. "I used to think I understood people," he continued. "Used to think I could read them, predict them. But then a girl showed up in my suite one rainy night, not to impress, not to gain anything, but simply to help someone she loved, and she changed everything I thought I knew." Emma felt tears sting her eyes. "I've fallen in love with you," he said. "Not because of anything you've done to win me over, but because of everything you are when you think no one's watching. I love your quiet courage, your compassion, your integrity. I love you, simply as you are." For a long moment, she couldn't speak. Then wordlessly, she reached out and took his hand. Though she said nothing, her fingers wrapping gently around his told him everything he needed to know. The years that followed weren't marked by headlines or grandeur, but by quiet, meaningful moments. Early morning walks, coffee in hospital break rooms, notes tucked into suitcases before long flights. Emma thrived in her medical career, known for her intellect and unwavering empathy. She treated patients with kindness, remembered their names, and never let success alter her essence. Her coat was always clean, her heart always open. Alexander, though still leading his empire, shifted his priorities. Inspired by Emma, he expanded the Heart Foundation, focusing on community clinics, scholarships, and mental health programs, things he once overlooked. He moved from skyscrapers to service, from power to purpose. Their relationship remained private, no public declarations. No magazine covers, but those who knew them could see it in the way he looked at her, in how she smiled just a little softer when he entered a room. Aunt Lily, happily retired, lived in the home Emma bought for her. She gardened, sewed with neighborhood kids, and often teased Alexander about their first meeting. You thought she was part of some hotel. Surprise. Now look who's surprised. Years later, at the opening of a children's hospital, Alexander stood at the podium in a simple gray suit as Emma watched from the wings. When I was younger, he said, I thought success meant chasing more and more money, more recognition. But one night, I met someone who showed me the truth. He paused, his gaze finding Emma. She didn't try to impress. She simply helped someone she loved. She didn't demand anything but gave everything. She reminded me that the rarest things in life aren't bought, they're found. He smiled, eyes soft. I once searched for luxury, but my heart was conquered by something far greater, a woman who never needed to be given anything, because she herself was the gift. The room fell silent, deeply moved. Emma wiped a tear, her heart full. In that quiet moment, it was clear this was a story not of luck but of love, not of wealth but of worth, and of how the greatest journeys often begin with a single unexpected mistake. Thank you for journeying with us through this moving story. If this tale touched your heart, reminded you of the quiet power of kindness, or made you believe in the beauty of second chances, then it accomplished exactly what we hoped it would. At Whispers of the Soul, we believe in sharing stories that heal, inspire, and awaken something tender within us all. Stories of resilience, of love that transcends boundaries, of ordinary people doing extraordinary things, not with noise, but with heart. If you felt something today, we invite you to subscribe to the Whispers of the Soul channel so you never miss another story that speaks to your soul. Because sometimes, the smallest moments hold the greatest meaning. Click the subscribe button now and let us continue to bring meaningful stories to you each week. We'll see you in the next story.